wish more of their employees knew was how to read and how to talk about what they read. Strangely enough, reading has started to become a really important part of almost every single job. In fact, just a couple of examples that I kind of wanted to show you a little bit. Well, here's one in particular. So I work a lot with medical students, pre-med students. I help them write their statements of purpose so they can get into the medical school they want to, which I'm very happy for because I really, really want smart people who understand like muscles and blood and guts and tumors and everything else, being good physicians so that when I get tumors and diseases and stuff like that, there's somebody there to heal me because I can't do it no matter what. And my fiance, she's a podiatrist. She's going to the medical field. And all of the doctors she worked with have specifically said, if you are going to be a good doctor, the first thing you have to do is read this book. Okay? And this is, I don't know if you can see it there, it's The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. Okay? And at first I thought, well, that's kind of weird. Why would you want doctors to read a book that isn't like a biology book or an anatomy book? Come to find out, the story of Henrietta Lacks deals a lot with the history of what is it okay for doctors to do, and particularly when they're doing research. Also the fact that the story of Henrietta Lacks is the story of how a lot of our vaccines, a lot of the stuff that we know about the human body and cures that we have for major diseases all came from one woman who was dying of cancer. So it became kind of a very important book that they needed to read and understand. Similarly, do any of you guys know who Colonel Chris Hadfield is? Any of you? Maybe kind of. Colonel Chris Hadfield, he has spent more time in space than anybody else from the planet Earth. He was the commander of the International Space Station. Really, really fantastic guy. He's originally from Canada, so I guess America doesn't get to claim that anymore. But, he's still a really great guy. He recently came out with a book, something that some of you may be interested in. It's An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth. And I actually had the fantastic opportunity to meet him. And one question that came up, quite frequently that he gets is, well, what if I want to be an astronaut? What is the first thing I need to do to be an astronaut? And he kind of stopped and he kind of looked and he goes, the first thing you got to do to be anything like an astronaut is you've got to make sure you're really, really, really good at one thing. You've got to master one thing. You've got to show to them that you are the master of what you can do. Of course, somebody asked, well, how do you do that? He said, you have to read. Read everything you can, every single thing you can, particularly in your specialty or in your field. That's actually how come nowadays we've started to see books have become more diverse. They're more specialized, right? So as more and more people have gone online to watch TV or to get their movies, similarly, people go online to get the books they want to read, that they kind of want to enjoy. And because of that, which I realize many of you may not realize, but back before we had iTunes and iPods and iPhones and everything like that, to buy music, we had to go to these record stores and we had to buy the whole CD.
It was the worst. The worst.
It was terrible. Why did CD stores exist? I hate them. Just terrible, right? So if I just wanted to listen to Shake It Off by Taylor Swift, I had to buy all of 1989. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad idea. That entire album's great. It's a fantastic album. But sometimes you just wanted one song, right? Or maybe I wanted somebody that was musically a little bit different. Back in the day, couldn't do it. But now with iTunes and the internet, I can find a new band that maybe only has 500 fans, and the only gig they played was in their mom's garage one time. So it makes it so I can find kind of rare or obscure stuff. And that's actually started to happen with books a lot, because now you can read books on your Kindle, your different e-readers, even your smartphone. books have to get much, much more specialized. You can find books about any weird thing you want. For example, I love cooking. I'm big into cooking. You can now buy books. This is Sous Chef. You can buy books that is just what it's like to be a professional chef in a classy New York restaurant for a night. That's all it is. 24 hours of being a chef. If you want to be a chef, I know for a fact that the Culinary Institute of America, they make all of their students read this book and this book, Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential, and what it's like to actually be a professional chef. If you like someone like Bobby Flay or Giada or any of the people that you see on Food Network, yeah, they kind of had to read about what it was like and what they kind of had to do. That's the interesting thing about literature, is that you're kind of going to run into it pretty much anywhere you go. In fact, many of you, when you sit down, watch TV shows, watch movies, at this point, they're all coming from books. How many of you guys watch The Walking Dead? Any Walking Dead fans?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's right. The Walking Dead's where it is at. They got the spin-off Walking Dead. Oh, it's fantastic. Many of you probably know Walking Dead is a comic series. Most comic series, most books are now being turned into TV shows. In fact, I can tell you right now what are probably going to be the hot TV shows for 2016 and 2017 based on what I've been reading that I know are getting TV contracts. In fact, from the guy who did The Walking Dead, be on the lookout for Outcast by Mr. Kirkman. Instead of zombies, this is about demon possession. Pretty awesome stuff. It's going to be on Cinemax here soon. The Wicked and the Divine by Jamie McKelvey and Karen Gillan, about gods that show up and become pop stars. So you've got like a god version of Kanye West, even though Kanye West thinks he's already a god. You've also got like a Daft Punk god, stuff like that. In movie theaters pretty soon, you're going to be seeing this one, Chrononauts, by Sean Gordon Murphy and Mark Miller. It's about two bros that invent time machines, and instead of going back and fixing stuff, they go back and make lots of money. Lots of fun stuff. Oh, one more. Stay there, don't worry. For those of you that are fans of football, probably 2017, Southern Bastards by Jason Latour. It's like Breaking Bad. What?
What is it about?
This is what would happen if you put the TV show Friday Night Lights and merged it with Breaking Bad.
Okay, done, sold. I'm on it.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. And they're getting ready to make that into a TV show. In fact, AMC, their next big TV show that they showed the trailer for, Preacher, was originally a comic from the 1990s.
Hey, wait. So who's doing Preacher? Like, it seems like somebody big is directing it, isn't it?
It's being produced by what's his name? Bearded Jewish fat guy that did the interview.
I think I know what you're talking about. And then they stole the guy that plays what's his name from Stark. What's his name in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Wait, who is it?
The guy that plays Tony Stark's father, and he's moving over. He's playing, right?
Yeah, he's going to be in it. In fact, I think I've got. Talking about stuff. Oh yeah, there's some Preacher right there.
Yeah. Somebody says Seth Rogen.
Yeah, Seth Rogen, that's who it is. Yeah, he's doing that. And that comic came out in the 90s. And that's the other really interesting thing that's happening to literature. Not only are you getting more diverse stuff, the types of literature you can read has gotten much, much more interesting. I'm obviously a big comic book fan. What was that, Blair?
No, go ahead. I have a question for you after you're done, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. But that's the thing is comics have started to get enormous. Because now, most of us know about comics from like Captain America, Iron Man, Ant-Man, even Batman versus Superman. But comics have gotten to be much, much more diverse. In fact, when I was in England, this is another big book that I love. the British Library did an entire symposium on comics in the United Kingdom and the idea of anarchy in the UK via comic books. It's gotten to be a huge thing. Plus, the way we read books are very, very different. Blair, your question before I show these other.
Okay. So my question is this: because of the way that I guess information, books, things like that are so ubiquitous right now, or like so readily available to everybody, sometimes it feels like it's drinking out of a fire hose. So, what's some of the best ways to like find good stuff?
To find good stuff, okay. Well, first of all, I'm going to challenge you on the term "good stuff."
Okay.
Because here's the thing, and I know particularly for your students, right? You guys have probably all had the teacher that has assigned you a book and said, "This is the best book you'll ever read," and then you read the book and you go, "No, it's not. It's terrible." Mm-hmm. Right?
Everything written by Steinbeck.
What?
I said my opinion. Everything written by Steinbeck. But that's my opinion.
Steinbeck is such a rough one to get through. Though I'm excited for that Sound and the Fury adaptation. That looks interesting.
Is that James Franco, right?
James Franco. Yeah, James Franco's doing that one. But here's the thing: is part of finding a good book, okay? Finding a part of something good to read is starting to understand what you as an individual likes, okay? Both me and my fiance, we read tons. She reads way more than me currently because I was doing the whole PhD thing, but she's putting away easily a book a week at this point, if not more. It's just kind of staggering. And some of the books she likes.
My wife and Manda, my wife and Manda, they seem to be like competing right now. My wife.
Seriously, they should do a bet. Like the person who reads the most books in a year buys dinner or something.
Anyway, sorry, cut you off.
No, it's totally fine. But we don't always agree on what's a good book. She may love a book, and I may just kind of go, not really my thing. I may absolutely love a book, and she will look at me and go, I'm never reading that book ever. No, you're stupid. That's just kind of the way it works. But the thing is finding a good book is finding out what kind of stuff you actually like to read. You know, like I said, Preacher, I'm excited for it. I love Preacher. It has a lot of stuff that I like. It has mysticism. It has weird religious stuff. It has a character named the Saint of Killers who is a Wild West zombie who shoots people. That's awesome, at least for me. But it's definitely not for everyone. Part of finding books you like is to look at genres you like. Look at the TV that you like, the movies that you really, really enjoy. Like I said, most often those come from a place that already has books based on it, or that they based it off from a book. Particularly, one of the big movies that just came out, The Martian, starring Matt Damon, right?
Based on a book
written by Andy. So good. Written by Andy Weir. That book is now required reading for most people who go to NASA.
Really?
Yeah, because they estimate now they want by 2020 for us to be ready to send people to Mars.
Huh. Wow.
So because of that, Andy Weir's the only person that has ever written anything about what would happen if you had to survive for a little while on Mars.
So speaking of required reading, like one of the questions that somebody sent out from the class for you is kind of how would you navigate the required reading in school? Because I know it almost creates the situation where if you're required to read it, you don't want to, like the kind of don't tell me what to do, I do what I want reaction. How would you as an English teacher like to see people react to that or navigate that?
Okay, well, the question, I guess to kind of expand on that question, is it a situation where you guys have to read specific books or you just have to read so many books?
What do you guys, we have a program in our school, it's called Reading Counts.
Oh, it's the worst thing
ever. So can somebody explain what the program is?
It's stupid.
Okay, do you want to explain it to them?
No.
Please.
It's like you read a book, and it has like 10 questions. You have to get 7 out of 10 right. So, and the questions aren't made by, who knows who they're made by, but, and sometimes you don't get it. And you have to get 7 out of 10 right, or you fail your class, basically. So.
Even if you read the book.
And each book is worth a certain amount of points. The idea is to get X amount of points by the end of semester, so you can get the good grade.
Okay. So are the books required? Do you guys have to find specific, like, do they have a list and you have to pick the books off the list?
For the college-bound classes, yes.
Do you hear that?
Yeah. Okay. Then really, probably the best way to navigate that, I would say, is that you need to be, there's certain books that they're going to be required. I mean, they're considered classics, right? Like Blair said, Steinbeck, it's just not his bag. There was plenty of books I had to read in high school where it's just like, it's not working out for me. One of the best ways to navigate it is to look at it not just as a book that you're reading for class that you have to answer some questions, okay? Because many times a larger question you can ask yourself is, why is this book required? What is this book in kind of a larger context? One of the things that becomes really interesting when you are looking at those books is looking at the historical context that they come in. One thing that a lot of people don't realize, right? Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, a movie that a book that you see on.
Wait, okay, hold on a second. Stop. Okay, they are reading Frankenstein right now, so you're hitting the hot topic. So.
Oh, okay. So here's the thing. Frankenstein, I have a good friend, Kyle Bishop. He loves Frankenstein. He loves it so much, he's taken his SUU students next summer to Germany and England and all over Europe to visit the places that take place in Frankenstein. That's how much he loves it.
Wow.
Okay.
College.
Now that right there, even if I didn't really like how Frankenstein's written, which I'll admit sometimes it's kind of a hard read, going and visiting all those places would be awesome. Frankenstein, that's the thing, is there's a lot of ways to understand Frankenstein that are, I guess you'd call it contextual. Who Mary Shelley is in particular. She led a very, very interesting life. Her husband was a jerk, apparently a jerk that everybody loved. He was kind of a terrible person, to be honest. Treated her quite badly. The interesting fact that Mary Shelley basically came up with the idea for Frankenstein at a gigantic wine-fueled sleepover. That's where she kind of invented it. Look at the fact that, as you're kind of reading it, look at the fact that Frankenstein in particular, there's some kind of odd ways to look at it. Many of you may have ever seen the comedy Young Frankenstein. Have you guys seen that?
No.
Oh,
yeah. One person that has, yeah.
Oh, a couple of you.
Couple.
Oh, it's hilarious. I love that. And that's really the thing, is that we often get caught in this idea of, okay, particularly if you guys have to take a test for it, right? When you're reading a book, there's that reading it to answer the questions. And that is not always the best thing to do. I said the best way to get around books that you're required to read is trying to find the stuff that you actually want to get out of it, the things that you actually enjoy about reading a book. And particularly, going with Chris Hadfield's advice, getting really good at one particular thing, becoming a master of something that you want to succeed at. How does that required particular book kind of help you get there? That's usually the best way to get around it. Because, unfortunately, you're never going to be able to convince administration not to make you read a book. It's just never going to happen, unfortunately. Yeah, that's the thing, is try to make the best of it. Try to find ways to read around it. For those of you, if you guys are reading a bit of Frankenstein, if you guys are fans of The Walking Dead, of comics in general, try and track down a copy of Warren Ellis's Frankenstein's Womb. It's a very, very short story that imagines what if Mary Shelley came up with the story if she actually met a Frankenstein monster lumbering around in the countryside. Pretty awesome stuff.
And you have the TV show, the one that's on, is it Cinemax?
Oh, Penny Dreadful.
Yeah, Penny Dreadful.
Yeah, Penny Dreadful. Fantastic show. Oh, yeah, and it definitely deals with Frankenstein and his monster quite well. And that's the thing is there's so many, particularly some of these older books, there's so many interesting things that are around it that for many of you may just be more interesting than the book itself.
Well, a lot of those stories, the older stories, the classics, become iconic and people talk about it. It almost becomes a form of pop culture currency where you can talk back and forth with people that and know what other people are saying. So,
absolutely, stories like that, they're classic stories and they get ingrained in everything. In fact, more than likely the Justice League Dark movie that Guillermo del Toro has been trying to work on will probably have the DC comic character Frankenstein, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. No, not Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent of Shade, which is Frankenstein's monster but with a big sword and a big gun.
Right.
And he fights demons.
Yeah.
So it becomes kind of an interesting thing. Plus,
okay. So really quick, I don't know how much.
Yeah.
We got a couple minutes left. We're okay time wise, but give me, for a young adolescent stuff, give me 5 or 6 books that you think would be something they would be interested in reading.
Okay, 5 or 6 books they'd be interested in. First one, boom, right here. Night Film. This book is by Marisha Pessl. This book is awesome. It's a horror book about horror movies. And in fact, for this, you download an app onto your smartphone. There's some of the pages that you scan, and it gives you more information into the mystery. It's about a guy trying to track down the missing daughter of a cult horror movie creator. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Other adolescent stuff. Because it's becoming more popular in kind of like what we talk about, many of you may have heard in the news about the deal that the countries are trying to make with Iran currently. Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. This is a comic. It's also been adapted into a film that Marjane Satrapi did as well. And it's about her experiences growing up in Iran under the government that they currently have, which has fantastic moments like when her parents had to smuggle in Michael Jackson posters because they were against the government. Fantastic, fun stuff.
I said, I'm assuming you're going to say something about blankets.
Let's see. What else? Other really, really good ones. Let me take a look.
What are you currently reading?
Oh, what am I currently reading? I just finished Red Shirts.
Mm-hmm. That's the one about Star Trek, isn't it?
Ready Player One, fantastic. Have you suggested that one, Blair? I know you like that one.
I have, and my wife, Mary, spoke to the class last week, and she said the same thing. So I'll put that one up there too. What did you think of Armada? Did you read Armada?
No, I've been holding off on it, partially because Amanda just finished it, and Amanda hated it. And the critiques, like when me and her talked about Ready Player One and the stuff, like it took me a little while to get into Ready Player One. There were some issues I had. And I told her what the issues were, and she goes, "Oh yeah, never read Armada. You will hate it."
It's kind of, I mean, I'm sure Amanda's told you what it's about. So
yeah,
I like.
She does have.
It was like an extension.
Yeah, she has a good taste of what I like. Let me see my bookshelf back here.
No.
Anybody that's into like video game culture, like you like playing video games, Ready Player One. This.
Another comic suggestion, and this recently won the British Comics Award for Best Book of the Year. The Motherless Oven. It's about a world where once you turn 16, that's when you die. Like that's old age, and you die by turning into things. So it's about a kid who his mom is a oven and his dad is a grandfather clock in his house. Outside, when it gets really bad weather, it rains knives. And it's about him and his friends who decide enough with going to school. We're done with this. We're not going to live this system where we get old at 16. And they go to try and figure out a way out of it. Fantastic, fun book. Absolutely great. One other comic, I Killed Giants, and I can't remember who made it, who wrote it off the top of my head. It's pretty soon going to be a big motion picture movie, so you guys might want to read it before it does. It is about a girl who moves to a new high school who is really, really good at World of Warcraft and Dungeons and Dragons. She is the best giant slayer from her group of friends. And it's about kind of how it looks like her new school may be inhabited by real giants, and what she is going to do about that, because she was good at it when she pretended, but is she good at it when she's not?
Okay, I know you're Why the Last Man. You know, any updates on that, on the show version of it?
On the what version of it?
There was going to be a TV show version of Why the Last Man, correct?
Yeah, they just announced Why the Last Man is going to be a TV show. That should be. We don't know exactly how that's going to roll out, because they're still kind of in talks to get things going.
Tell them what Why the Last Man is about.
Why the Last Man? Why the Last Man? Basically, the idea of it is that a plague wipes out every mammal with a Y chromosome. So basically, all males, they're dead. Male cows, pigs, humans, all mammals with a Y chromosome, except for one guy named Yorick and his pet capuchin monkey, Ampersand. And they decide that what they're going to have to do is travel the world, and he's going to go find his girlfriend, who he proposed to just before the plague and just before all communication kind of vanished. So again, if you like The Walking Dead and kind of apocalyptic stuff, that is definitely way up there as a solid one. Yeah, definitely Why the Last Man. One other final one I'll suggest, and again, I'm going to comics because I love comics. Nimona is fantastic. It's fantasy, and in particular, it's about a young girl who has the power to turn into a shark, and that's about all she can do. But it's really fantastic. I believe that one's Faith Aaron Hicks. Fantastic book. Really, really love that one. Is that 6? Do I got 6?
That's perfect. I got like 8 on there, so I wrote them all up on the board. All right. So last thing, any advice for readers? And I'm trying to get them motivated to read, not for the points values, but to read something good. So any piece of advice you'd give them, especially coming from like a small town where you can't find as much. You know, I'm always impressed with you, Joe, that you were able to find good music, good books from Kanab, Utah.
Yeah, there was not a lot there. This is the thing, is that, yeah, reading for points, I realize that for many of you that takes I understand, it takes the fun out of reading. Like I mean, that's the thing, you don't want to just be reading for points. You want to be reading because you actually enjoy the book. And I think that's the best thing is do start to read around it, because this is the thing, is even after you're done reading for points, you're going to find people that want you to read specific books for specific things. But there's great books out there that are about the topics that you really, really enjoy. You know, that's the great thing. Like I said, because reading has gone digital, because it's so specific, you can find literally books on any topic that you are interested in. Space, science fiction, fantasy, cooking, dating. More than likely, if you wanted to find a book out there about hipster elves fighting ogres, oh wait, that book exists. I know it exists. I've read it. It's fantastic. But that's the thing is there's books out there for pretty much any sampling. And if that's the thing, I do realize for many of you, like reading a big, thick prose book, that can also be somewhat intimidating. I'm a big fan of comics, and it's no more with comics. It's no longer a world of just superheroes and supervillains. There's books out there about everything, absolutely everything. So yeah, get a Goodreads account. Look at some recommendations. Spend some time on Amazon. Ask Blair. He's got good taste in books.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to throw a couple questions at you that they sent beforehand.
Okay.
First question is, how can you be a doctor in comic books?
Okay. To be a doctor in comic books, first of all, you have to learn the anatomy of a comic book, and then they do a test where you get a scalpel and you cut the comic. No, I'm kidding. Basically, it's a PhD. It's a research PhD. If I'm on a plane and somebody starts having a heart attack and they go, "Is there a doctor on board?" I'm not going to raise my hand because all I can do is give them a new issue of Batman. So I'm not going to help that heart attack much at all. It's more a doctor of philosophy. So it's more just that I've been to way too much school at this point. Just means that's the thing. That idea of becoming really, really good at one thing, I wanted to become really, really good at comics.
So what is this? The question is, what does the degree help you to do eventually? Or what you're doing now, I guess.
Yeah, talking about comics, teaching comic books. I want to, at some point, some of you guys may go to college somewhere where I'm teaching, and there will hopefully be a class called Writing About Comics. And that's the thing. I love them. I want everybody to read them. I think they're the best.
Okay. Let's see. Let me get two more questions. Trying to get a question there. I can't read it. Oh, you answered that one. What's the hardest part about your job as a college professor?
Grading papers.
It's the worst, is it not?
I can't do it. In fact, me doing this, part of it is that I get to procrastinate grading papers.
I'll say, as much as you guys hate writing papers, think about this. We assign an assigned reading or assigned paper. You guys write a 3-page paper, let's say. You write a 3-page paper. We have to read 83-page papers. Right?
Oh, it's just the worst.
It's awful.
I don't. I would like to just not assign papers, but
right.
That wouldn't really.
Yeah.
No, I think that's the hardest part. Again, I love talking to people. Like, tomorrow, me and my students, we're going to talk about Jaws, the movie, and we're going to talk about what exactly it has to do with fighting communism in the 1980s. So that's what we're going to do. And I love it. I love talking about books and movies and all of the cool stuff that they can read and the way we can read them.
All right. Let's see. Somebody asked in an estimate, how many books have you read? That's probably not even possible, right?
I do know that between me and Amanda, we did kind of a total last year of how many books we own personally between the two of us.
Right.
The Willis Library is currently at 2,523 books.
Wow.
And I buy books all the time. I've got a problem. It's an addiction.
Okay, my last question for you. I know you said you think that the Civil War for Marvel's a little bit overrated, but you got to pick a side: Captain America or Iron Man.
Yeah.
That's easy. He's Captain America. I don't even understand why that was a debate.
I know, right? That's what I thought too. But there is people.
Okay, because here's the thing. I can understand Iron Man's side of the argument, right? Because we do want to register people with powers. We want to know people that have powers. However, if you become registered, you automatically have to do what the government says. You automatically have to go on missions and fight foreign wars for them. No, that's called conscientious objection. That it falls apart right there.
Yeah.
Iron Man is a cash.
He is, and he's a sneaky SOB too.
Oh, he is. But Robert Downey Jr. is delightful.
I know. All right. Does anyone have any questions for Professor Willis before we go?
No.
Joe?
Oh.
Got one?
Have you read Ranger's Apprentice?
Yes, if you've read The Ranger's Apprentice. Kind of young adult story.
Who wrote that? Oh, Lonesome Dove Story?
No. But have you read The Lonesome Dove? I got a lot of my students reading those.
Yeah, I read Lonesome Dove. I read those.
Thoughts?
My dad is a big fan of Louis L'Amour and Zane Grey and a lot of the old school westerns, and so I really kind of grew up on a lot of those. Those westerns are fantastic. Louis L'Amour, like the Baudry books, that's some of the best stuff I've ever read. Love it.
All right, so our bell's going to ring here in a second. So Anyway, thank you so much. You guys give him a round of applause for Joe. All right, so thank you for talking to our class. We really, really appreciate it. And thanks for your help on my paper as well. So.
Hey, absolutely. Right. You guys have a good rest of your day.
Okay, see you, man.
Bye.